I've been dying to ask you this. So you built a home by watching YouTube videos that taught you how to do it.
We did. Yeah.
I watched that video. I don't know if you posted it or if you posted it.
Yeah.
I watched that and I was like, you are the coolest person. Like, I actually might have made a video on it, basically saying like, this is basically the time we're living in, where it's not information that is the challenge to get anymore. It's just what is good information and apply it. So how is that process?
Yeah, I would say you can learn so much on YouTube. Like everything down to like wiring to plumbing to whatever you need to do. So, but I also did grow up doing construction, so I had a little bit of like the background to know how to do some things, but I would say the foundation was there, but you can get really specific on YouTube.
So like, what was the part, like, were there any parts of building the house where you were like a little bit overwhelmed? Like,
Oh,
I don't
every
know if I
day.
could-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, every day.
Well, it's funny because a lot of the videos that I post, he seems really confident and he's like, I have a construction background, but I lived with him in a camper while we built this from the ground up for 3 months. There were days where he had to do electrical in the morning and he's literally Googling what wires go where. And like, he really didn't know. And he figured it out. And we had an inspector, by the way, for anyone that's listening and stays at the Airbnb, we had an inspector for everything. And he passed with flying colors. But he did not know the day before sometimes. And he would wake up the next day, spend 3 hours watching YouTube, stay up till 1 a.m. watching YouTube. Next day, goes in his notes. This is what he learned from this guy. This is what he learned from this guy, and did it and passed inspection.
That is so cool.
It was definitely stressful.
Yeah,
Like-
for me, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine actually going through something like building a home.
Well, because
For
for
the
us,
first
it was
time.
all our money was going into this. So it's like the weight of like, if this doesn't work, this money's tied up. Like, and if we don't get this rented out, like, what are we going to do?
And you
So
guys
it's-
are newly dating at this time?
We've been together probably, what, a year, maybe
When
8 months
we
at that
started
point?
building, we had been together like 9 months.
9 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe not, but did anything cross your mind of like, if we blow this, like this could like blow the relationship, or no, not at all?
I don't know if I was too worried about that. I feel like we've been very,
Okay, good.
we're very secure, I feel like. But it did feel crazy. We're like, we just bought a property together, only being together.
8 months at that
Yeah,
time.
8 months.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. I remember this was before I bought a house, so this was probably 2003, 2004, and no, I'm sorry, take that back. This is 2006. This is right before the financial crisis, and what was going to become my father-in-law, right? At this time, it was just my girlfriend's dad, wanted to buy a lake house, right? And so he built out this whole business plan for him and I to buy this together, right? This is what we're going to buy it for. This is how we're going to use it, right? This is the best use of dollars. And part of me was like, okay, this is cool. But the other part was like, what happens if like, I was thinking actually more in the lines of what happens if Jen and I break up?
Yeah.
Like, I know, own a home with
Wait,
your dad.
did you break up?
No, we didn't.
Oh.
We ended up getting married and it
Oh.
worked out. But I remember thinking, dang, what would that be like?
Yeah.
And then the other thing I thought was like, what happens if it fails, right? I say no. He's super bummed about it. Financial crisis hits. The home drops by like 300 grand and then he buys it by himself. And I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm part of the reason that like you got such a good deal, you know?
Oh my God, and he bought it without you.
Yeah, I bought it that way.
God.
We use it all the time, so I can't even be mad at it.
Honestly, when we bought the property, we had also started Men's Crafted together. So
that's
we
right.
had this new business and then we had a new build while we're living in a camper, while we're like a newer couple, learning how to communicate, learning how to live together. And I feel like we almost had 5 years of marriage within
Absolutely.
7 months, I would say.
Well, because we didn't know which one was going to take off first, so we started 2.
Yeah.
We didn't know which one was going to like really take
Yeah.
off, but they both were required so much.
So
Did
much
you do
attention.
real estate and is it Men's Craft? or
Men's Crafted.
Men's Crafted.
Did you do them like at the same time or did
Yeah.
one start? Yeah.
We started,
Men's-
we started Men's Crafted just a little bit before, maybe like a few months, and then we're like, hey, this is like we should get a property and build a house, and do
Yeah.
Airbnb.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it kind of just both happened at the same time. But it definitely tested our relationship in a lot of ways. And I never lost confidence in him as far as the build goes. So I think he really held it together in that sense. Like he never showed me that he didn't actually think that he could do it. It wasn't until, let's say, he passed the inspection, he's like, I actually didn't know if I was going to get that right. And I was like, I probably would have been freaking out. Like, are you sure you should do this? Should we hire an electrician? But he never wavered in his confidence. So that's why I probably never wavered in mine.
If you could go back knowing what you know now, would you still have done both at the same time, or would you have done one and then moved on to the next?
That's really hard because I feel like the other business would probably be a lot more,
Lucrative.
Yeah,
Men's
it'd be a
graphic,
lot
yeah.
further down the line. But I love having that house now. It's like our dream little cabin in the woods. So yeah, it's really
So you would
special.
do it again, same way.
I think so.
Okay, I like to explain it like this. When someone has a baby and they're in labor, when you ask them while they're in labor if you would have another child, they probably would either say not for a while, or maybe they would say no. Versus after having the child, you kind of forget what the pain was like during labor. So of course you would do it again. But if you asked me during the pain, like 2 months in, I'm living in a camper. I'm used to living in LA. I'm living in a camper. We had no water for weeks, no hot water. I wasn't showering. Don't even get me started about the septic. If you would ask me then, I would say, hell no, I would never do this again. But now that we have it and it's making money, I'm like, I would do it again.
Yeah.
That's kind of like real estate.
I like that. Did you guys ever run the numbers to find out how much you saved by you doing it yourself?
Oh, yeah. I think we saved around at least 200,000.
Yeah, I would say 200,000.
So what was that? What was total cost for it?
We only spent, with the land included,
And
I
permits.
believe 100,000, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Land, permits,
like 90 to 100.
construction, materials,
What?
design, 100,000.
How big is the place?
700
700
square feet. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not
So
huge.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
But it's
Yeah.
like 8. How tall is it?
Well, it's got really high ceilings, so I think it's 13, 14 feet on the front and 8 to 10 on the back. So
Was 700 feet all you were able to build, or did you keep it at 700 because of a
we
cost?
wanted something manageable. Like I didn't want to bite off too big, like do a 1,500 square foot house, and then we're still there right now
Yeah.
building
Right.
it. And
He didn't actually know if he could build the house. So
Plus,
he's
yeah.
like, okay, if I can't, let's do it small to begin with.
So all in, 100,000.
100,000. Yep.
Okay, and you're renting it out now as an Airbnb?
yeah.
Okay, and what does that look like?
It's
So-
going really well.
We do not have a free day at all. Like, it's been booked every single day since the day we kind of moved out, which was in June, I think. July is our best month so far, and it's 10,000 in revenue.
$10,000 for the month of July. Mm-hmm. So if this thing
Without barely any reviews yet.
stays, well, that's gross, right?
Yes, gross.
Right. So what does net look like on an Airbnb?
I would say minus probably 2,000 for cleaning on
fees.
10. Yeah.
And then do
So-
you guys self-manage it?
Yeah, so I have an Airbnb account, so I do all like the communication, everything. So we have a cleaner, and then I kind of just Amazon Prime anything we need, like toilet paper, toothpaste, whatever it may be. So that saves us a lot of costs. We don't have like a manager or anything. We just have our cleaners that are kind of on the ground, and then if I need them to do something, I'll just pay them a little extra for that day.
Got it. Dang. So you guys might be able to recoup your like full investment here pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exciting.
And that was a big scary part in the beginning was like, is this thing even going to rent out?
Yeah.
Because we just chose a location and we're like, this is a great deal on land. Let's do this.
didn't do much
when we,
research.
not really. We're like, yeah, it's close to the beach ish.
Yeah.
Like 30 minutes. Like, let's try
Yeah.
it.
Where in Oregon is it?
It's next to Seaside.
Okay.
So it's like 30 minutes outside of Seaside. So it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's like a very, very small town. Like there's one market. Like it's very small. But our idea was my parents have a tree house that it cost my dad like $40,000 to build, and they make like anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a month on it.
What do you mean by treehouse?
It's built. It's a house.
So he actually built it around this tree. There's this huge.
So it's a tree through the middle of it.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Dang.
It's impressive.
That's cool.
He's a real
Beautiful.
craftsman.
Yeah, and so me and Kinsey had our investments in West Hollywood, and at the time I started managing my parents' Airbnb just to help them out, and they were almost making the same amount. Our $1.5 million house was almost making the same amount on Airbnb as this $40,000 treehouse, and I was like, why am I doing this? Why don't we go build like a unique stay, like a cabin, or like we wanted to do a tree house. It didn't get permitted. So we ended up doing like this really cool cabin. But that was the idea of like unique stays cost a lot less, and you can sometimes get the same price per night as a luxury stay.
Got it.
So
Got it. So
that's
that's where we
really-
landed.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay. So then tell me about Men's Craft. How did, where did, you're like, okay, I want to do this. I want to do a house. Let's do both. Where
Yeah.
did the idea come from?
So for the longest time, I was using like different products, and like I would mix the two. Like I would use like a clay and then like a hair paste, and kind of like couldn't figure out what like the best product was, so I was mixing two. And one day you were videoing me, and I was like doing my hair in the morning, and she posted it, and we got like thousands of people going like, "What do you use in your hair? What do you like? How do you style it?" So we're like, "Dang, like we should make our product that we're gonna like, you know, actually go to a lab and get it, you know, completely done by ourselves."
Yeah, it started with the viral video. So he would just do his hair the way he did it, and a lot of people would be like, "Oh my God, I love your hair," and he always was known for his hair. And we started our TikTok channel together, and naturally I started posting him because he got a lot of views. So I was like, okay, this is great. And his hair kept going viral, and I was like, "Babe, what do you use in your hair?" And he's like, "Well, I do a combination of this and this and this." And I'm like, why don't we start a hair company? Like, there's so many people that want not only your hair, but they want to be educated. Because I feel like there's a lack of education in the men's hair, beauty, all of that stuff. They don't know how to do their hair. And I think a lot of times it seems like more feminine, and guys don't always want to be feminine, like to talk about their hair. So I think I saw like, wow, there's a market for education on how to do your hair, how to do skincare, how to do things that maybe you don't know how to do yet. And so we started just doing educational videos on how to do your hair, and it just started blowing up.
Dang. So how did you go about it? Did you guys figure out the formula, order, you know, whatever the minimum was, store it at your house, manage it, send it out, or did you guys use like a 3PL or more of like a distribution center?
A lot of them in the beginning, we were actually making ourselves. So we were sourcing like rosemary hair growth oil and all of these things that he had already used. We were sourcing them just from other manufacturers, all local, like California, Arizona. We wanted it to make sure it was really good quality. And that's how we kind of started. And then we worked with the lab one-on-one in California. And that's when we formulated the hair paste, which is kind of a mix between a clay and a paste. It's like a stronger hold, but it's smooth enough to where it doesn't leave stuff in your hair.
Dang. Okay. I like the sound
Yeah,
of that.
yeah, it's
The hair stuff has always been a disaster for me. I was kind of like you. I could never find anything that I really liked.
It's hard.
well, that's the
and-
thing. Like I grew up, well, in the starting modeling, like probably 8 years ago. That's why I kind of learned how to even do my hair. So it's not something I feel like everybody grows up just knowing how to style their hair or what products to even use. So just years of like trying different stuff, I knew exactly what like we wanted.
Yeah, and I think that's what sets us apart is all of the education, because there's so many guys that come to us, and after watching our videos, they're like, honestly, like it changed my life. Like I know how to style my hair now. I always thought I had frizzy hair. I could never grow it out to make it look good. And we show a lot of his before photos where he didn't know how to style his hair, and it was just like puffy,
Had
kind of
like a bowl cut,
helmet
like-
head almost. And once he learned how to style his hair, I was like, this is what other people need to learn, because it's not just naturally like a flow like that.
Right. Okay, I want to get there, but I want to go into like how you guys are basically running the business right now. Where is all the product land, or who's managing all the product right now?
It's in our apartment.
Okay, you guys
Yeah.
are still shooting it out yourselves.
So we had a 3PL, and it didn't go very well. No, we didn't have control. They weren't doing same day deliveries. Because we're competing with Amazon, it just was like we wanted to give our customers more same day deliveries, not same day, but like it goes out the same day. And I think with a lot of 3PLs, especially the one that we worked with, they have a bunch of other companies that they're also working with as well, and you're not necessarily the priority. Like they can wait 2 to 3 days to send your product out, and there was just a bunch of systems that we had to go through with them where we just didn't feel like we had control. So we fired them, and now we're back we actually have workers that come to our apartment every day.
Okay.
So,
And have you looked into or any desire in doing like the Amazon distribution or the TikTok shop or any of stuff like that?
We've tried the TikTok shop.
Did it work?
It worked. They do this weird thing though where they automatically discount. So we didn't love that. So I think they'll take the blow from that, won't they? Like they'll lose the money, but promote your product at a cheaper price.
Yeah, I
We
didn't
didn't
love
want it to
TikTok
be cheap.
Shop. Again, a lot of these companies, Amazon, TikTok, it's great for brand awareness, but you are kind of, in a way, giving your brand away. You're cheapening it. You're making it an Amazon, which is fine. I mean, you can be a multi-billion-dollar company on Amazon, but I think where we specialize in is like the quality of like the customer service and the branding, and we're very particular on that. And I think with Amazon and TikTok, you don't get the customer's information. I think it's with Amazon, you don't get the customers.
I don't know actually.
I don't think you get like their email and their information, so you can't retarget them. So it is harder in the long term to have like a bigger company when you're giving it to all of these other companies.
All right, so what do you think the most important thing you guys have learned so far about starting your own company that's product based that you guys are basically running entirely?
Working with the right people. Because I feel like each time we've worked with the wrong person, it cost us. So kind of vetting more, figuring out if they're a good fit. But I mean, I feel like that takes trial and error.
I would say marketing is the biggest thing that you're going to have to learn, because you need to reach people.
Right.
And education at the forefront. You always want to educate people. You don't want to feel salesy. You want to create a community. And by educating people, you start to create a really big community that feels kind of like a family in a way, because you're their teacher. You're teaching them things. They come to you. They want to go check your videos out. And it just creates a long-term relationship.
Do you guys do all the community built through social, or do you guys use any of the like community style apps?
It's all through social.
Instagram, TikTok?
Yeah, I run all the accounts, and it's just kind of consistently every day we wake up and he does story times, or we'll do before and after videos, or if he's struggling with something, like the other day he was struggling with dandruff, and he's like, oh my gosh, I haven't been using our rosemary oil. And so he made a video like, hey, I haven't used our rosemary oil in like 3 weeks. Started realizing that the product buildup is causing dandruff. So he just would teach them, like, this is how you put the oil in, you scrub it in, massage it, and then we do results a week later and the dandruff is gone. So it's kind of like following his hair journey, and then also him helping other people with their hair journey.
Okay, so dude, Jacob, break it down for me. What do we need to know as men on hair management?
Yeah,
What am I missing?
what are you trying to do? You styling? You cleaning?
Well, I don't know, like dandruff. Like I don't know much about that. Like,
I would say
sometimes
finding.
I have it. I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Styling. I feel like it's a different day. It's a different look every day.
Yeah.
Some days I'm like, I look pretty good, and the next, like, what happened?
I think a great starting point is like a good shampoo, like cleaning the hair out really nice, getting a good haircut that fits kind of your head shape.
How much should a good haircut cost?
I've gotten good ones for $60.
Okay.
Or paid $120 and it looks worse. And so it's just who you get. I would say try a few different ones. And we actually did this haircut guide that you can just hand to your barber or hairstylist, and they'll cut it to exactly that shape. So it's really nice, yeah.
And he recommends a hairstylist, not a barber.
Right.
Because barbers have a way of blunt cutting it. And if you want more of like a natural flow, you go to a female stylist, because she's used to cutting female.
Because female's hair is more like flowy. It's not like super sharp lines usually, unless
Right.
it's
I guess
meant
it's
to
what
be
your
that way.
style is.
Yeah.
though, but yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
For my style, I like
I have
that.
a lot of bros that still go to like the $20, like, what were they called? Like supercut stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like they'll run
If
in.
they're
run
good,
out.
they're good.
But their haircut's so high and tight, it's with a little bit on the top, All right, I actually went through a whole. The reason why I'm asking, I think it's actually so fascinating. Jen has been on me about my hair for a long time. Like she never seems to like what I'm doing,
Such a typical
And
thing.
so she was like, "I made you a hair appointment somewhere." I'm like, "Oh yeah, with who?" She goes, "This person." Like I never knew him, right? I'm like, "Okay." And she had like her Pinterest board, like this is what I wanted to look like, right? And we went through this like whole journey of trying to figure it out, because like my hair's naturally not straight; it's kind of wavy. So she wants it more wild. That was brutal trying to figure that out. It was like, I have a social media following. Like I'm showing up on camera, I look like a disaster. It was a little bit tough going through like a change up.
Yeah.
But
What
I
did he
feel,
do wrong?
Well, it was more what I was doing with my hair was like, it was shaved up super high.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
I had like kind of shorter on the top, and she wanted it kind of grown out. She wanted it more like wild's not the right word.
Flowy?
Flowy. Let's
Yeah.
say flowy.
Yeah.
Flowy. Right? My wife's gonna watch this and go, I like that hair. Right?
Well, I used to do the shaved on the sides and
Yeah.
the hair on top and longer on top. And
You were younger. This is when you
well,
were
I was 23. I just grew this out 2 years ago.
Okay.
And found out like, oh, I like my hair long.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. That was another thing too. Is I just thought like this is what guys do. They get it cut, short on the sides. I didn't know I had good hair. I was like, okay, I'll try.
So I
this.
saw a video that I think you did where it was like how men change when they're with a woman, or
Yeah.
how, right? What was the hook?
Yeah, it was like my boyfriend before me and my boyfriend after
Yeah.
me.
That was the trend.
And he's just like this hot model after me.
So are you doing modeling? Like that, was that a career or still is a career?
Yeah, it's still a career. I would say since the build and since the business, I'm a little more particular with which ones I choose because we don't have a ton of time. But yeah, I still do it. I have an agent here in LA, in Vegas, and one in New York.
Do you guys know Adam Sen by any chance?
Adam Sen, no.
Adam Sandler.
No, not Sandler. He's the only other person I know who's a model. He came on to we have a golf show. Anyway.
Oh, cool. No.
One thing that I think both of you do really well is you guys are creating things that are very in line with like who you are and the content you put out. How important is it creating content together, like couple style content? Do you guys see that people connect with you better because of it? Is there like a bigger trust build because of that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I would say for me, especially like when I was posting alone, it wasn't as, I feel like love is a really big niche and it's very specific. It's like a mega niche. So when we started posting about our relationship and just being open about like dating advice and things that we're going through and things that we're creating together, it did build this really like strong trust with our audience. So when we did launch Men's Crafted, I think that was a big reason it blew up so quickly. It's because people had been following us for not years, but probably like 6 months, I would say, already at that point. So then when we did launch it, there was already kind of like this trust built in. But I do think you have to post things that align with you, and then when you create something, whether it's a business, experience, community, that also needs to naturally align with what you've already posted.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Did you guys know if it was the guys following you that bought the hair product, the girlfriends
lot
or
of
wives
girl
that bought it
followers,
for their
don't we?
husbands, or both?
Well, the beginning, it was a lot. Like, we get this all the time, actually, and I'm not going to out people, but there's a lot of, and even well-known people that message us, like girls, and they're like, hey, this is my boyfriend's hair. I'm not telling him I'm ordering this, but can we do a collab? Can we work with you guys? Because I really want him to try something with his hair. And, they'll ask for our advice, and we end up, sending them stuff. But we get that a lot. Girls are asking, how can you change my husband's hair? How can you change my boyfriend's hair? Yeah. And it's so funny because I'm like, do they want to change it? Because I feel bad. I don't want to force them to use it. But yeah, it started out being the girls, the girlfriends, the wives getting it for their significant others. And then it turned into now we do have a bigger guy following on our Men's Crafted.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. What do you guys think is the biggest relationship lesson you've learned since building two businesses ultimately while dating?
I would say doing life as a team, because we've really learned to be a team together, because whatever it is we're tackling together. And I feel like in some relationships you're not really working as a team on anything, so you don't really grow that closeness or know this is how they operate, this is how they deal with issues, this is how they solve problems. So I think that's been huge for us starting two businesses.
Yeah.
How different is your guys' skill set?
I would say he's well, no, I don't want to say that. I would say, not that I'm the brains and you're the face, but I do think I do a lot.
I'll take that blow. But
I do think he is shown a lot more. So he is the face of the company. A lot of times he is the face of the social media. But I would say I'm more of the operations behind the marketing and what to post, strategy, the consistency of what we post, community building, all of that stuff. So I think I bring my business experience, because he's been in modeling. I've always been in business. So I think I bring a lot of business experience on the back end to Men's Crafted, and then even to the build as well, because I had done builds before. But yeah, I would say that's where. What'd you say?
Yeah, I would say I handle a lot of the logistics side too of the back end, like how to, I don't know, go about like some of the manufacturing and just like product tweaks with that. Since I'm the one who uses it, but
Right.
yeah, and mainly the
R&D,
face. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
How many people help you guys with the company, with Men's Crafted? You say
We
people are
have
coming in?
there's 5 of us now. Yeah.
We have an email guy, a Google guy, a Facebook guy, and we have one girl that comes to our house every day, and she does all of the communication for social media. She does all of our packaging, all of that stuff. So yeah, I think like 5 total.
And like as far as managing people, do you guys both do that, or is one person in
I would
charge
say
of
you
like,
mainly
management?
manage people.
Yeah, I definitely would say
Yeah.
I do all the communication and the management with our employees and back and forth, tweaking things, teaching.
Right.
Because there's a lot of that goes on that people don't realize. Like, you can find really great employees, but to find a superstar, they also need to be trained in the beginning really well.
Right. Do you guys ever fight at work, or does anything at work ever cross over into the
Is there a day
relationship?
we don't fight?
Look, I've been married a long time, like, you know, but because that's one thing that I have never experienced really with my wife is
Yeah.
we never really worked together in the same business, which I think I'm just not saying it's bad. It could be great. It just opens up a different dynamic.
It does. We're both very passionate on, I would say, our approaches at things. So if she disagrees, we're like, okay, how do you see it that way? And
I think long term, I don't see us working this closely. I see it being finding a way to separate at work, which is what we've already tried to do, which is like, okay, if your schedule today is like working a few things on the back end and doing some ads for us, maybe he'll go to the park, maybe I'll go somewhere, and I have a list of things that I need to do. But we've tried to separate a bit more, because it did get to that point where it was like, it wasn't fun anymore, because we'd spend so much time with each other at work that like we didn't really want to go on a date night, because we're like, well, I'm kind of annoyed with you, because like, why do you not agree with me? Yeah. So we're trying to like minimize the fights by kind of having our own separate areas that we focus on, and then getting to come together at the end of the day and like have our cuddle sessions and our date nights and like feel the romance again.
Right.
So we're not just business partners.
So do you guys now have like boundaries where like if you guys are on a date, you don't talk about business, or is it just
Try.
natural?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did have to, because
unless it's something urgent.
our
but-
therapist one time was like, I want to go over like your date nights and like what you guys talk about. And it's like, when we actually thought about it, we didn't have a date night where we weren't talking about Men's Crafted, our business, complaining about things, talking about the build. So then when we sat there one time and we're like, hey, let's not talk about any business, build, anything. We're like, wait, we're actually getting to know each other deeper. Like, what was your childhood like? And just the questions that we don't normally ask each other.
Right. Yeah, that's
which is so important.
super important. Yeah, that where we end up getting into that scenario is just with kids. Like,
Yeah.
you spend so much time with the kids with your wife that it's like what you just explained.
Yeah.
It feels like you're always hanging out,
Yeah.
but you're not really spending time with one another.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of move into like creating boundaries around that. It was like
Yeah.
we have Wednesday night date night. Like, babysitter comes at 6, we go out and it's just us two, we connect. And even in that, we have to like, because there's some things that I usually want to talk about just with business, and that has to come on the back end. It's like,
Yeah.
how are you? Let's check in. And it's good. It really helps maintain a healthy and strong relationship when you make sure you're spending time just on you two.
And it allows for you guys to not have a burnout.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, the burnouts. I can
It's-
imagine with kids, because I'm like,
Oh, I know. That'd be,
yeah.
yeah.
It's
good.
That's a third
Boundaries are
business.
good.
Yeah, that's right. It's like a bit. Look, there's a lot
3
of
businesses.
crossover, right? That's right. So, what's next on the real estate side? Will you guys do another home?
We will. Not soon, though. I think we're going to let Men's Crafted grow.
This is actually one
This-
of the biggest arguments
we
that
just
we've
solved
had.
this.
Here we go.
We
We
just-
real time. Let's go.
We decided
Because-
this about 2 days ago.
Yeah, so when we got back from the build, we had just finished the build. He's obviously the model. He's the face of our company, and I haven't really had him for Men's Crafted. It's kind of been like I took it over while he was building. So as far as like ads and all that stuff, I had to just like scramble with what I had. So when we were done with the build, I was like, oh, thank God we can focus on Men's Crafted again. Like, it was growing significantly. So I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to make all this money, whatever. And he finds this property in Calabasas and he's like, babe, our next project, I put in an offer for Calabasas. We're getting this land for $50K, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh Lord, like, I don't know if I can do this. And I disagreed, but he's very passionate about building. So I'm like, I gotta let him be his own person. So if that's what he wants to do, maybe I'll find another model to hire. Like, I'll figure it out. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna.
You just changed the face of the company.
No, I know. I mean, I don't know what else to do. So I was like, okay, I don't want to like control him. I want him to be his own person if he loves building. So the property ended up not working out. And it actually did work out. They accepted the offer. But we decided, he came to me and he was like, I realized like Men's Crafted has so much more potential right now, just as far as revenue per month. And I think that's where we should put all of our focus for like the next 6 months.
Right.
So the
that
argument was resolved because I won.
Okay. I feel that's something I would say. Okay, so we'll put attention towards the business right now.
Yeah.
Build the revenue, bring on some more people, bring on real estate after that.
Yeah. That's where the passion is for you.
Yeah,
I'd say.
definitely.
So what do you think, like, because you guys are early on millennials? How old are you guys?
95 is when I was
95,
born.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
97.
okay, so I'm on the other end of it.
What are we, millennials?
You're
yeah.
technically millennials, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you like? What do you guys think about like people in their 20s, even like early 30s, right? They're like, I'll never buy a house. Like, this is no longer available for me, especially living in like somewhere like California, where like you'll find, what feels like a dump that's 80 years old and it's $700,000. What should their outlook be? Are they accurate in their outlook, or are they just looking at it one way and there's alternatives that they don't know about?
I would say the biggest thing that I've actually learned from Jacob, which is crazy because I'm the one that's been in real estate, but what I learned from Jacob is, number one, creative financing, and number two, finding the opportunities that are already out there and just lowballing. Like, if someone says no, that's fine, but you put in the offer for the budget that you're comfortable with. And I mean, the first offer that we put in, we've got land for $30,000, half an acre. And I think I just learned from you, like, you just got to do that. You just got to
And being creative too, like you said, with that deal in Calabasas, it wasn't just 50 grand, it was 50 grand and then doing some excavation work to build a road throughout 3 lots that they had. So we would get the first lot for free, or for 50 grand, which is nothing out there. But ended up being that you had to do 3 years of ecological testing or whatever,
there's
all
always a
that.
reason.
So we're like, maybe we don't go that route.
Right.
It's gonna be 3 years so we can build.
But yeah, I would say keep on.
But just be creative. Yeah.
Keep on looking and put in low offers, and someone's going to accept your offer.
So I want 500,000 for my house. What's a low offer that's coming to me from you guys?
You want 500,000?
Let's say I want to sell this thing for 500.
What
It's
are we-
listed for 500.
What
Where
are we
is
buying?
it?
Right? It's makeup land. I just want to know what like a low, like when you're talking about low ball, are you looking at basically, because this is how we at least look at the real estate we do. Somebody wants a certain price, right? And then we're going to underwrite it and figure out like where our floor is. If we buy it for this much, that's as high as we can go, or the economics no longer make sense. Now, we want to get it for less than that because that means we now have more room in the deal to potentially make money, or we have more room in the deal in case things go wrong to still make a return. And that's kind of how we get at what our first offer is going to be. But I don't know, like I actually think that's sometimes hard for me, right? Because when we're trying to make offers, I don't want to throw an offer in so low where they don't think we're serious and we don't even have the ability to negotiate. So I'm always trying to find that balance, right? Like, okay, like a property that we want, maybe they want $7 million for it, right? And we know for us, like we cannot do this deal if it's anything north of 6, 7. I might start at 6, right? How do you guys go about like figuring out the low ball offer?
So you're in commercial, right?
Yeah, which is a little different.
Yeah, I would say residential is very different. My biggest advice is be okay with losing the deal. Like, you should never be emotionally attached to a property to where you're like, you would be sad if you lost it. That's where when we put the offer in, I think they had it listed for like 80 or 90,000, whatever. We put in the offer for 30K. They accepted it. We didn't do any math or anything. All we did is, this is what we have in cash that we're willing to pay at this very second. And I think commercial is very different because it's very business oriented versus if someone's just looking for a place to live, I would think of it more as, what are you comfortable with spending? And I wouldn't care if I offended someone necessarily, because people are good. They're either going to say no or they're going to say yes. And if you have the maximum that you're willing to pay, if you love the property and you're like, I really do want this, put down the maximum that you're willing to pay and nothing more than that. And if they say no, it's not meant for you.
Right.
And find another property, because someone will say yes.
Yeah, that's actually that's one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given. It was from Rob Dyrdek. And he basically said, if you are not all the way willing to leave the table and walk away from a deal, you will never do a good deal. You have to have that. And it's just fascinating because there were times where like I really wanted the deal and I wasn't sure if I was like all the way willing to, walk. But like what you just said, now it's in commercial real estate, it is easier because we just know the number for us. Like, sorry, gang, like we just have to say no. That was more challenging, like in my skateboarding days, like having to like negotiate with sponsors. And I should have just been at a point where I was like, nope, I'll walk.
Yeah.
It's an energy that you can't fake.
Yeah.
Right.
Who's ever willing to walk away first has more power.
That's right.
In everything, even relationships.
That's right. And I like the idea of like, just throw the offer out there. Like, the worst thing they can do is say no.
Because
right?
we've put in 2 offers and they both got accepted.
Right.
That's all we've done.
Right.
2 offers and they both, like, low ball offers, and they both got accepted. So it makes me even wonder, like, me and Kinsey probably should have put in more low ball offers because we were agents and we didn't want to offend anyone. And I think now I'm not as much of an agent. And so it's kind of just like, no, this is the maximum I'm willing to pay. And both times it's worked out. And I'm like, how many other times could I have just gone a little bit lower?
Right.
And they would have accepted it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. For negotiations, how important do you think it is to be in like the alpha frame or like what makes you feel like you have all the leverage? Like, is that necessary for like a good negotiation? Or do you think like what you just said of, this is what I have, take it or leave it. Like, this is all I have. I can't give you anything else. It's 30K.
I think, well, it's funny because I've tried to be more of like the alpha in negotiations. And it's funny because now that we're at a point where we are strapped for cash because we have so many things going on that we're like, oh, this is all we have. Take it or leave it. People are like, oh, like I either take this or leave it. They're not like trying to like macho me or whatever. It's like, that's all they have. I either take it or leave it. And we've seen so far, they just take it.
Right.
So I don't know which approach is better, but I feel like sometimes when you go in and you're like, this is all I have and take it or leave it, they know they're not going to negotiate anything more because they can literally see that is all you have.
Right.
In that bank account, that is all you have. And you're giving me everything.
So you guys did you guys go to Oregon to do your first property because it was a little bit more affordable, or you could buy more, or did you just like that market?
Well, my parents have the tree house in Oregon, so that's what gave us the idea. And he was just on Zillow one day, and he was like, "Oh, there's like half an acre for under $100,000," because we just wanted something under 100. And then when we realized 30 was our budget, that's the offer that we put in.
Right.
We actually put it in for 25 and they came back with 30 and we were actually thinking about walking away.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh my God, it's so crazy thinking about it now because we were so emotionally unattached. Like, we trained ourselves. We're like, we're not going to be attached to anything. After, we put the $25,000 offer in and they came back with 30 because they had to get 30 out of it because it was like bank owned or whatever. They had to get 30. So, and they told us, this is the minimum that we can do, I promise you. And we were about to walk away. We're like, I don't know if I want to pay an extra $5,000. And we ended up doing it. Thank God. It was the best investment, but we just were not emotionally attached to it.
Do you think people like that can't afford real estate in California, like probably when they want to buy a home, do you think they should be looking in other states? Or like, because that if I post this on social media, right, like, where you can buy the most affordable homes, and like, dude, there's areas where you can buy homes for under 200K. And like people in California go, yeah, but like I would never want to live there. Is there a point where people should be making the sacrifice to live somewhere else so that they can own a home? Or do you think it's like, look, you just want to live there and don't own, fine.
You know, I think we would love the answer to that because that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
We're like, is it worth it for us to like live here and pay this price? We have been looking outside of LA though, in like the outskirts, like Burbank. And
I saw you guys looked in Thousand Oaks at a house, right?
yeah, we did. How'd you know that?
Yeah, I just saw it on your social media.
Post
yeah.
that?
You posted it. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
we
did,
post
yeah.
The
everything.
only, that's where I live. So I was like, saw a video. I was like, oh,
that's
that's where I live.
right. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we were looking over there.
Yeah, and the prices are a lot better.
Yeah, they're a lot
still,
better. They're expensive now, but they're
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, my opinion is, I go back and forth, but I would say try to find something in the surrounding areas and commute if you have a job, if you can.
So get a house, like buy something.
Definitely buy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
If you're going
yeah.
to live here, yeah. I wouldn't continue to rent. I think you want to own, like, don't you want to own where you live? Like, that's what I would think, right?
I
Do
don't
you
know.
disagree?
It's not that
Here's the problem for me.
I'll tell you about it, but go ahead.
With California in general, the prices are so high that you're paying so much in property tax.
Right.
But like if you go somewhere else and you buy a home, you can still have that same comfort, but you're not paying this crazy premium every year.
Yeah, that's true. I guess there's some areas that like I was in Texas yesterday, so I was talking to them about real estate. And the challenge they have is they had so much appreciation and their property tax reassesses with the new value, right? So, but they don't have state income tax. So they're like, yeah, we basically don't pay state income tax, but we get it on the property tax because, the house that I bought for 500 is now $1.5 million. I'm not paying taxes at 500. I'm now paying taxes on $1.5 million.
wow.
Right? So we do get that in California,
Wow.
but I totally agree with you. The rent part, I think it depends. So I got really frustrated when I first bought a house because I felt like I was told one thing, which was buy a home. Like, buy a home, that's the best investment you can make. Just do that and then fund your 401ks and your IRAs and that, now you're set up. And so that's what I did. And then when I started investing in like actual real estate investments and storage, and I was putting money in a debt fund, then I was like, wait a minute, this is a different type of real estate. Like, this real estate pays me. The house I live in doesn't pay me. I got to pay this thing every month. And so I started getting frustrated by that because I think going back, if I could, to when I was young, I would not have bought a house. I think I would have just bought as many investment properties as I could and rented along the way. And then got to a point ultimately where I was like, okay, you know what? I've got this machine out there making money for me. I no matter what, have to have a cost of living, whether I'm paying my mortgage or renting, at least the assets can help with that. So I would have reversed the order and bought on the back end as opposed to the front end. But the caveat is that's only if you're going to buy investment properties.
That's what I was going to
That's
say.
it. Like if
Most
you're not going to
people
buy
aren't.
that's right. So if you're not going to buy an investment property, you got to buy a house.
I think I understand
Right.
the question a lot better now because it's like buy 3 investment properties and then buy your home, or buy
Yeah.
that home first and then you're tied. All your cash is tied up.
Yeah.
You're working to pay that house off rather than these houses working for you,
100%.
paying your house.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
So
yeah.
like one thing you hear all the time is when you rent, you're just throwing money away, right? I've never looked at it that way. I've always looked at it as you're going to have to pay to live in that house no matter what. It's either going to a mortgage or rent, right? But if it's going to rent, that means you have nothing down on that house. You have a security deposit, but there's no down payment.
And does the bank look at you the same? Like if you're just renting versus you have this huge loan for this, $600,000 house, like it's going to be harder to get a loan than to buy another investment property, right?
Well, if you're talking about like how to really do it,
Yeah.
it's, buy it as a primary for a little bit and then, move it into a rental and jump to the next, right? Because you get more favorable loans when you're living in the property. That's why the house hack is so popular, right? You put little down, you live in the house for a year, and then you swap out a tenant and you jump into the next, right? But like my whole idea was if I have an investment property versus my primary, right? I always think the investment
Yeah.
property wins.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to do anything to keep that thing alive. The tenant does. So I get my appreciation, I might get cash flow, I get principal pay down, I get a little bit of tax help. Great. I don't get that with the primary. But I tried this out with my wife, and my wife does not like it. My wife wants her home. My wife wants the freedom and ability to design her home like she wants.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with a rental. You don't have that type of
That's what I was going to say. The
control.
biggest thing is like, if you are going to use your money better and buy an investment property, of course I would do that first. That's what we've done. But for people that do have a stable job and they're not about to go and buy investment properties or put their money into other investments, then instead of renting, because I've seen people that have rented for like 10, 15 years, and I'm like, it does add up at that point. If you're not doing any other investment properties.
I agree.
You know what I mean? It adds
Totally.
up
Yeah.
at that point where you should probably at that point
That's a good
own
point.
something.
Totally agree. Yeah, the built-in savings account aspect of a home is powerful. It 100% is, and there's plenty of data that shows that owning a home keeps a large percentage of people out of poverty. Like, it's big, right? It just doesn't compete to like actual investment properties. You know, did you guys see the news going viral a couple days ago about? No, I was gonna say about Biden. No, well, yeah, the whole world.
I'm
knows
like,
about that.
yeah, I saw that.
No, I was gonna say Biden wanting to make rent control federal and putting a 5% rent increase at a federal level in all real
Oh
estate.
wow.
Is that good for California? Because isn't it like 3%?
Well, California is already rent control, right? So this would basically go into all the other states that aren't. So you own a property now in Texas, you're rent controlled like California.
I mean,
It's
He wants
like-
to do
that's
that?
hard though, because a lot of these small towns that nothing changes over the course of like as far as what they're making. Like, you know, I'm from a small town of 5,000 people, and every time we go back, nothing has changed
Right.
as far as like the price of like what they make. But if you start adding up 5% every year, like
No, isn't
So
it?
no. It's not
rent
a
control.
mandatory
Oh, so-
5% on top. It's
I
if you're
misunderstood.
going to increase rents, you can only increase it by a maximum of
Oh,
5%.
gotcha.
Which is not good
So
for
it's a federal
investors.
rent control.
I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is it now? Like, what can you raise it to? Let's say there's a bunch of like new developments and everything's getting appraised higher. What can you raise your rent to?
In our area, I think it's 5 plus inflation. I think.
Which is what? Like
Well, it's
7?
normally 2. Well, normally it's 2%, right? But lately it's been
No,
higher.
7 total? 7?
Normally, but
Oh.
you know, 2 years ago inflation was at like 9%. So you're like raising
Oh,
rents
wow.
by north of 10.
Wow.
Right?
I didn't know that.
I know, but for us, like with the type of real estate we do, we build. And so we're setting the rent when we open the place, right? So that is like where the majority of our appreciation comes from. And then the rent growth that happens like that, it's not that significant. You just put brand new Class A product online. It's more impactful for like anyone who does value add properties or something like that. That's where it kind of becomes a little bit more challenging. But no, it you know, it's an interesting one. Like, look, I don't like when people are renting a place and all of a sudden like rent goes up by 20 something percent. That's insane, right?
But has it ever gone up that much?
Oh my gosh, it was going up so hot during COVID. It was
20%?
going up nuts. People were getting squeezed. Yeah, it
Also,
was
people
wild.
weren't paying during COVID. So I feel like I know a lot of investors that didn't make a lot of money because their tenants
This
weren't
is like
paying.
21, 22. This is like things are opening again, not like
Oh, I
dark
see.
days of
Oh.
2020.
Dark-
Oh my
the dark
gosh, like
times.
rents were going through the roof. Yeah.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
why was that legal? Because it was a new build?
Well, no. Okay, so now you get on the argument of regulation, right? And how do you regulate something like rent? And the reality is, how if the housing market was a true free market, which is what it should be, right? And you didn't have so much government involvement on getting new product online, how it would work is when rents go up, that's a sign that there's not enough product. And so when that's going to happen, that's going to signal to developers, oh, boys, it's time to build because we get to make money. And then you're going to build, and then builders build too much. And then you start seeing rents come down and concessions and then a crash, right? That's how the flow is supposed to be. The problem is, and what we saw during 21 and 22 is there wasn't enough housing. And so if you have, let's say, an apartment and you get 18, applications to rent your apartment, where's the rent going? It's going up. If you have a home, like this happened to me multiple times when did I tried to buy a home in 23. This was last year, right? And Jen and I put an offer on a home. Interest rates are like 8.5%. And I'm like, oh, babe, cakewalk. We're gonna lowball. Like, we're in our bag. And, I'm working with a broker and she's like, don't lowball them. Like, give them asking. I'm like, are you kidding? In 2023 at 8.5%? And so I'm like, all right, fine. We put in a full ask offer, right? And I get a call back and they're like, there were 18 offers and they're already at 150K over asking.
Oh my
and I'm
Lord.
like, thank you for your time. I'm out of here. Right?
Oh my God. So
Wild.
what did you guys end up doing?
We put in another offer. So we were in a very unique situation. We found out we had black mold everywhere in our house. And
You owned it?
no, thank God. We sold, and then we were going to rent this house for, we weren't sure where we wanted to go, and then black mold hit. And so we kind of got like, we scored in that aspect, but it was, we had almost 10 months of like everyone getting sick and not knowing why. My wife was super sick. And so we had that mixed with I'm on city council and I have to live in my district. So the amount of places that I have available to buy or rent are very limited, right? So we basically got out of the house, had to throw away everything we owned, like basically burning it. And then we were doing Airbnbs, right? Which talk about like what you guys are
it's
getting. I
expensive.
hear like we were in at one point we stayed in a 2-bedroom, 700 square foot Airbnb with 6 of us, and it was almost $6,000 a month. Right? I'm like, this is brutal.
Well, that's what ours is like 9 or 10,000.
Yeah, but it's not. I know, but you're not.
It's
But
tiny.
I was staying in there too long, right? You go into an Airbnb to stay in there a couple nights. Like we couldn't find anything, right? So we were basically having to like do longer stays at Airbnbs. I think we actually stayed there for a month, and in that, like I was having a hard time.
Oh my.
Right? Like I am really good at managing stress. I do a lot, but that was the maybe only time in my life where I was like, I think I'm breaking. Like
yeah.
I'm feeling the pressure.
You have to go outside to change your mind.
It was nuts. And basically what I figured out for me, if my family, like my like core is not solid, all this other stuff becomes really heavy. And so I looked at Jen, I'm like, I don't care where we go. I don't care. I need something now. And she's like, okay. And so in a 2-week span, we put 2 offers in on 2 homes to buy. We put maybe 7 applications in to rent, right? 2 homes, multiple offers. I was like, okay, we're not buying. On the applications, we kept getting denied to rent because I have 4 kids, right? And the second somebody,
You have to put that down.
oh yeah, yeah, you totally do.
Show.
And then the second somebody said yes, I was like, yes. When can we move in? We moved in like 2 weeks later.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, and that was almost a year ago
Why do you think that the housing market is like that, even though the interest rates are so high?
because there's not enough housing.
And there's not enough housing because it's hard to build.
There's a combo. There's one that it's hard to build, and 2 in California, what you saw and kind of what the strategy is, and part of it I do understand. When you have an area that you live in, you like that area for what it is. And whenever you're talking about growing, that scares people, right? Because it's like the idea of like everything we have that
Right.
makes this community special is at risk of going away. And so kind of what the process was is when you look at like city council, right? You would elect people on city council that were like a wall. Like we will not allow any type of build. And then, the city council appoints their planning commission. It was like, don't approve anything. And so cities were creating basically these barriers for any type of new product being built, right? And that was coupled on top of a very difficult market to build in general. And so you had years of basically no new buildings. And then what shifted is maybe 3 years ago, the state basically took a lot of controls away from local government. And so the state would now say, what city do you guys live in?
West Hollywood.
West Hollywood. The city
Terrible
council will now say, West Hollywood, you've got to add 50,000 units and it needs to be approved in your general plan. And we are going to approve that number or you're going to be out of compliance. And they did that over and over and over across the state, right? And the risk is if your housing is out of compliance, then that opens up something called the builder's remedy or the developer's remedy. And what the developer's remedy basically means is you can build without the city's like blessing almost. Like you can work around city policy. And that's what's happening in all the, I think there's like 40 cities where it's happening in, where Like, for example, in Santa Monica, they have a 4-story cap on their multifamily, right? Well, their housing element went out of compliance, which opened up the builder's remedy. And some guy came in, bought a piece of property, and is building he's entitled now to build 1,500 units, and it's 14 stories tall.
Oh my
So if you
word.
look at the
How did
rendering,
he get lucky?
because he tapped into the builder's remedy, and it's happening all across the state.
How do we tap into the builders?
So here's the thing. This is kind of the unique moment that it created. It forced all these cities to go, holy crap, we have to get in compliance because we can't allow that to happen here. Which means they forecasted a certain amount of new units to be built over, let's say, the next 10 years, right? And then the ones that aren't they're having a hard time right now. So, if you wanted to tap into builder's remedy, right?
I do.
You would basically do your research to find out what cities don't have their housing element in compliance or hasn't been approved by the state. And then you look into the builder's remedy and you look at what you need to do, tap into that, and then you purchase.
Are you guys
That's
doing
genius.
that with your builds?
We don't do that. The reason why we don't is our model is at least going after the cities that are extremely undersupplied, that got their housing element approved, so that we basically go, okay, your plan is to add 6,000 units over the next 10 years. What's being built right now? 500? Go time for us. And that at least allows us to kind of do two things. One, we can see where the new supply being added is and how far that is from an oversaturation kind of from happening. And then two, you have a city that's in go mode to build real estate. And so it's easier there's less friction when getting it done. Now, if you compare California, how it is today, versus somewhere like Texas, there's no comparison. It's brutal here. Way easier. Not even comparable. But for getting a project done in California today, it is light years easier than it was 5 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, way easier.
I have a friend that's doing a development in Joshua Tree, and it's taken her 4 years, I think, just for permits and all that.
Yeah, that's...
But that's normal?
It takes us sometimes 2 to 3 years to
That
get
was gonna
something
be my
entitled,
question. Wow.
and then another year to get all your permits, and then 2 years to build. So this is now you're really talking about the housing crisis in California,
Yeah.
right? When
Yeah.
you need to build 3.5 million units, and we currently only add, at least over the last 10 years, 100,000 new residential units per year. One of the big problems is 3 years for your entitlements and permits, 2 years to build, a year or so to stabilization. So you've got 6 years from the point of you getting a property and it actually being realized, right? And so now just multiply that out. How long is California going to be in a housing crisis for? Long time. Unless they go, you know what? This regulation, we're going to peel it back, which I just don't see them doing.
Ever?
Not under the current leadership.
What about Trump?
Now you're on the federal level, right? On the federal level, yeah, if Trump gets elected, you're going to see, I saw him say something about wanting to bring the corporate tax level to 15%. So that's going to, in
What
theory.
is it at now?
Corporate is at
29?
20, is it 21? What's corporate at right now? 21%. So drop that to, Trump's saying he'll drop the corporate tax from 21 to 15.
Does that happen right away?
It takes a little bit of time, but it doesn't take long to get flushed into the system. You'll probably see another round of tax cuts or tax incentives. You'll see deregulation, but that's federally, right? You still, we operate inside the state of California. And so we would need really you would need the governor to go, you know what? This is how we're going to build real estate. We're going to peel back regulation. We're going to create incentive. We are going to make it so dollars want to flow into California. And that's not what we see right now. We see dollars moving outside of it. And when dollars are moving outside of the state, that means people are building things elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that does not help our housing crisis. It hurts it. And so what does that mean? That means for the renter, it's not good. That means rent's going to continue to climb. But if you're an owner, you can make the argument that the current regulation and the state of California, they make real estate investors very wealthy.
I know.
So-
It's funny that you're asking us what advice would you give? I'm like, I want to know what we should do. Should we buy here? I don't
Well,
know.
I don't know. We've now done it all, right? We own
Yeah.
properties outside of California. We own properties in California. Building here is tough. Like
Yeah.
it is brutal. There's no doubt about it. If you can do it, yeah, you can make the argument that you can benefit more than other areas. But it's more capital intense.
And the holding cost. That's just what scares me. And like when we did invest here versus like in Oregon.
I mean, think of how fast the whole process was.
Oh, in Oregon?
We actually we closed on the property exactly a year ago.
That's good. That's
So we got
Yeah.
permits, built it.
But we
renting
didn't. It
it.
wasn't under our name until like November. So we
Technic-
started building in January. So we got it done within permits and everything within like 5 months.
You know what I think the right answer is? Do it where you're going to do it. Like if you're like, I will do real estate there, and you're going to be able to start, go do it. Right? Well, just avoid the where should I
Right,
invest.
right.
That's what gets you in
We're
trouble
just not
because
ready
then
to
you.
leave California.
Well, I hear you. I'm not either. I still live here. I love it. But I hear you. It's. I think there's a lot of people struggling with that question right now. Is where do I live? How do I buy?
Because you're right. So many people glamorize like, oh, Nashville or Austin, Texas. It's like, I don't like the weather there. It's humid. I don't love Texas has so many
A lot of bugs.
weather problems and bugs and I don't want any of that. So I don't want to live there.
I hear you.
It's like,
I
yeah,
hear
it's
ya.
cheaper because people don't want to live there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna rent.
Yeah.
So we're gonna rent here in
Rent for, a
California.
little, rent for a little bit,
Yeah.
and then just keep investing, build your business.
Right, yeah,
Because
'cause-
the business is the big one. Like,
Yeah.
I think if we're going to end on anything, like I'm a real estate investor, I love real estate. You always have the greatest opportunity to grow your wealth with a business, by far.
Well, that's the cool thing
Don't
we
let that
realized
down.
is this property is paying our rent now. So
Yeah.
we're like, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's great.
But the business has exponential.
It does.
It's unlimited.
Okay, so where do people find the real estate? Where do people find the business? And where do the people find you guys? Let's run through this list. We'll get everything in the.
I would say mostly my account, Jessica Stalker. It's probably where you find everything.
So you'll be able to rent your Airbnb or
Yeah.
check out your Airbnb from your profile.
Yeah, there's a link in my bio. And then,
For the boys, and then they want to get their hair game up. Where
yeah,
are we going?
Men's Crafted. That should also
Yeah.
be in my bio.
Yep.
And then Us is on me. I post everything.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank
We're
you
in
guys
one
so
spot.
much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Yeah, thank
I learned
you.
a lot today. I got to do
I
this
know.
with builders.
Look, I learned a lot too. My hair game's gonna be levels up.
I know. We need to send you the haircut, guys.
Please do.
I know.
All right, thanks, guys.
Ooh.